My name is Shahid Juma. Welcome to the Reaching Your Full Potential Online Tech Summit, where top experts share secret tips to stand out from the crowd and how to use technology to be uber successful. Today, I'm honored to have John Beattie with me. A little bit bio about him. John has competed internationally as a long distance runner for the past decade. His career highlights include representing Great Britain at the Commonwealth Games, World and European Championships with a marathon best of 2.16. He has finished in the top 20 of both New York and London marathons. John, that's pretty impressive, and thank you for joining the summit.
Thank you, Shahid. My pleasure. I'm looking forward to talking.
Perfect. So why don't you tell me a little bit more about yourself? I mean, that was a small bio about yourself. Tell me a little bit more about yourself, what you do.
Okay. So my name is John. My background is as an elite international distance runner. I discovered running in my mid-teens when I was trying to get out of my brother's shadow of being the kid who was amazing at everything, who got all the recognition. I was desperate to find something. Running was something that came to me kind of by mistake. I entered a race local to me, a 10-mile race. It ended up going quite well as a 16-year-old. It felt amazing, and I discovered from there, right, I've got something I could do and could be good at. And then just gradually took it from there. So I got into running for a club and then a county and then regionally. I had a huge break when I was 21, getting a call from America to come out and compete in the NCAA on the collegiate system at University of Tulsa on a scholarship. Best 3 years ever, absolutely loved it. All expenses paid scholarship, ran at a very high level, and then really kicked on from there to be able to run internationally. So for the next decade after that, again, condensing this to a very short time, the next decade, I competed all over the world, trained and raced for Great Britain and England, over 5K, 10K, cross country, the marathon, track running, road running, lots of different things, just lived and breathed running. So that was basically my full 20s. And then as I was coming into my early 30s and I'm thinking, right, what could I do as a post-running career? I tried different avenues for employment, for getting a job, but potentially because my 20s had been spent traveling around the world doing all these obscure things with running, I was probably the last thing they'd want to touch from a kind of a paid job type thing. They wanted people with experience, people that had done grad schemes, done 2 years with this firm, that firm. I'd done none of that, so I wasn't even getting interviews for anything, despite having a law degree, having a master's in business. So I thought, right, what do I know? What am I good at? What do I love? That's running. So I thought, can I turn this into a job? And that is exactly what I decided to do, was to become a running coach. So all those years of learning from the best of experiences myself, the mistakes I'd made, I bundled all that together and started helping other athletes, runners around the world, to improve their own lives through running. That was around 4 or 5 years ago, and that is exactly what I'm still doing today. So you've had a 20-year journey in about 4 minutes there, Shade.
That's amazing. That's good stuff. That's great stuff. That's really good where you are. So why don't you tell me about your journey specifically to basically coming online and how you training has kind of changed for you in terms of specifically online or even your business. Like I know you do train both locally and online. How you got started with that as well, and how you kind of see that going?
Yeah, great question. I mean, to be honest, like through my own career, for bits of it, I was coached to some extent online. That you can't have a coach with you on every single run, every single session, unless you are like the top athlete in the world where you've got the infrastructure to provide that. That would be very rare. So a lot of the time, my coach, when I would be on a training camp in Kenya or something, and the coach would be in UK, they would be emailing me, texting me the training anyway. So I was well used to it as a concept already. And then when I started, initially I was doing face-to-face stuff, but then I realized quite quickly those same limitations, that you're limited to having to be in the same place at the same time as people. They're having to travel to you, or you're having to travel to them. Again, you're still going to get those same issues, that you can't be there for every single run for them, unless they kind of hired you as a full-time person to be there. which again would limit you to working with just one or two people. So I did exactly the same thing, that I started to coach people online. Initially, I didn't do any marketing or anything online. It was just purely giving people training in terms of the structure, the support, the routine. We'd use apps, we'd send them the training, and they would go from there and report back through exactly the same way. So that was the initial part of it. And then it grew in terms of like the numbers of people that we were helping, and then just the marketing side of things, that I realized that if you're doing that online and you get marketing funnels set up properly, and you can really leverage the internet, and the reach of that can be far greater, far easier to track than if you're just doing the old-fashioned way, handing out leaflets through doors or putting posters up in leisure centres, things like that, which may have worked 15, 20 years ago, but now can seem very limited.
Right. No, that's amazing. That's true. Online has definitely been an advantage for sure for many. Why don't you tell me some of your struggles that you went through when you were doing online? Some of the I guess ways that would kind of basically it's the struggles that you kind of face getting online.
Yeah, I mean, you will always get people who resist it. Will it work for me? How does it work online? When I'm speaking to new or potential new clients, that will come up sometimes. And occasionally those people don't overcome that, or they're refusing in their mind to overcome it. So that still does happen from time to time. I mean, as we've done it longer, we've refined our methods. For example, one of the great things that's actually come out of this whole lockdown virus situation for us is we now run live online strength and conditioning classes for runners. So we can actually keep an eye on how the runners are doing. They can come in as a group, so we can serve 15 people at once rather than just one. We can see how their technique is. We can give them live, immediate feedback. They get the accountability to have to show up at a set time. Right. So that's been one of the major pluses that's come out of this whole situation for us, which we may have had resistance to before. Again, people may have just said, right, it's online, how's that going to work? Because of this lockdown, it's forced that to happen, and guess what? It's actually worked really well.
Right. That's amazing. That's good. How do you see yourself going down the road, like the future goals of like online? I know you mentioned lockdown has kind of changed some of the perception of it, but how what do you see that going forward?
I think, one of the advantages of lockdown has been that adaptation to online. I mean, I think whilst life will return to some extent to how it was before, there'll be a lot of positive elements of this whole lockdown that will be here to stay, like these live online sessions that we were running, that we've only just started during this lockdown. 100% we are going to continue those. We're going to try and scale them, grow them. When races come back, I'm excited as well we've taken on a new coach as well to work with us full time. And we're excited to build that coach's workload up when the races come back. It's been a little bit challenging with all marathons at the moment cancelled, so we don't know when races are going to happen. So we have been a little bit careful on that. But I think it's exciting when all this stuff does return to normal. There's going to be huge opportunities out there for everybody.
That's true. That's good. So, especially in today's climate where things, obviously the lockdown and everything, what has happened, how do you sort of adapt and innovate? Obviously, you are online, but what kind of, for somebody who, wants to adapt or kind of take advantage or especially in today's situation?
When this all started, one of the big questions we really asked ourselves was, how can we continue to provide as much value for people as possible? So if in this era, like potentially like a big recession coming where people's jobs and livelihoods are on the line, of course you may lose one or two clients. But what we set out to do was to make it that when people are reviewing their expenses or things that they're paying for, we want it to make absolutely the hardest decision in the world for them to cut us from their expenses, in that we provide as much value as possible. We really step up, give them more now than we would do previously, that every session we're showing up with max energy, especially these online sessions, because they know if you're on it, you're really going for them, you've got their backs. They see that, they appreciate it. Whereas if you're kind of half-assed, and a bit lethargic and just sort of, oh, I can't wait till we get back
Right.
outside, and they'll see that a mile off. So that's been the big thing, is we've just tried to step up as much as possible in every way to really help people in their lives, because running as well, it has been something that certainly in the UK at least people have been able to continue to do, even if they can't
Mhm.
race. They've still been allowed to get outside and exercise, providing it's done on their own with no one around them.
Right. No, it's good. That's very valid points. Very good points for sure. As your journey when you were going towards your business and whatever, even online, what are some of the mistakes that you wish you could have avoided? And looking back,
Some of the mistakes, I guess, probably trying to do everything myself. That's probably a common mistake. Nearly anyone self-employed entrepreneur, they think they are the only one that can do things. They try and do the marketing, the finance, the accounting, the admin, the delivery, everything. I've long since been guilty of that, of just keeping everything to myself. So I probably wish I had systemized things a little bit more and let go a little bit earlier, and realize actually there are other people that can do these things way better than me. It's what they do every day. It's what they love doing. Like building websites, for example. I have no idea how to do that. Don't have any intention to do that, but I've still dabbled around with it when really I should have just got somebody else to do things like that. So that's probably the one thing I would say. If I was starting again, I would let go of things a lot earlier that weren't in my strength areas.
right? No, that's a good point for sure. And you know, you obviously doing something that you really love doing. So how do you know when that was the right idea? How do you know when you have the right idea as well too?
This, for me, I have so much gratitude for me that running for the last 20 years has been my life. That ever since that first race that I talked about when I was 16, of that feeling of crossing the line in that 10-mile race, um, that feeling of that lift it gave me, that's never really gone away, because since then, I had the opportunity to travel the world, to go to America on a scholarship, to compete for Great Britain, to meet people all over the world, and then to turn it into a career after that. I just have so much appreciation that running has been able to provide that for me and continues to do so. So I know that there's no way I could have been in this game for 20 years as an athlete and a coach if I didn't truly love it. So that's why I just know it's for me. I'm still running now. I'm probably running more during this lockdown than I have in the last couple of years, just because I found that enjoyment it's just shot right back up again. So I know I'm doing this, and it's always going to be part of my life.
That's good. That's good for sure. So one of the things as entrepreneurs and anybody that's kind of excuse me, runs their own business or starts to go out in the world and take on the next level, how do you handle adversity and doubt, and how did you handle that when you were starting off your business?
Yeah, great question. I guess it's to see all of those things. Like if that isn't happening, if there is no adversity, you're not playing a big enough game. Because if everything is just one smooth linear journey, you're just staying in your comfort zone. That is going to be, when I was an athlete competing at that high level, there are tons of times when I'd had a shocking race, or I had had a disaster in training. I've seen the very best athletes in the world have complete hissy fits on the floor, crying on the side of the road. I've seen that dozens of times. And that is because they are trying, because they care, it means something. And every time that happens, if you threw the towel in the minute something happened, you would never get anywhere. That's where the growth happens. You obviously you don't want to make the same mistakes over and over again. When something like that happens, it's like, right, why did it happen? What led to it? What have I learned from it? What can I do to reduce the chances of that happening again? As long as you're learning from it, then every single one of those experiences is just part of the growth, isn't it? So it's been no different that as an athlete, and now running a business, absolutely identical.
That's good for sure. That's good to know. And this is a question that everybody gets asked, especially when they're entrepreneurs. How can one be a good leader?
How can one be a good leader? Again, great question. it's just stepping up. I think this lockdown has given people a fantastic opportunity to do that. At this time, people are crying out for leadership. They're crying out for help. So it's a really good opportunity to step up. One of the ways that I've learned how to do that over the years is to spend as much time as I can around successful, inspiring people, mentors, coaches, other athletes or business leaders, people that really challenge you, lift you, push you on to achieve more. I try and spend as much time as possible with those and as minimal time as possible with people at the opposite end of the spectrum, the mood hoovers, the complainers, the justifiers, the pessimists, getting away from that as much as possible towards the other end. So yeah, that would be the big thing is for me is spending those time with quality, inspiring, uplifting people.
That's good. That's good. So, if there's one thing that you could tell us today that you can implement today to have success, what's that one tip that you can share with us that if you implement today to have success?
It's probably that last one I've just said is leveraging the help of other people. So I always say this about running, and again, it's the same as business. If you want to get where you are now to somewhere else, somewhere beyond, is either have help from somebody who's done directly what you're trying to do. So if I was trying to get faster at running, someone who has run faster than me, that person may or may not be able to communicate you. That's a different question. Or somebody who's helped others to do what you're trying to do. If you're around someone that can help you with that there's proof in the pudding that they've got the success stories, they've got the backup to prove that they know what they're doing, then you can't help but learn from all their mistakes, all their time wasted, all their experience that they've had from helping other people. You're on the right track. So when I've been running a business, I've always had really good coaches around me. And I think that saved me a ton of time, effort, and energy and money in other mistakes that I may have made if I tried to figure it out for myself.
Perfect. That's good. So a question is probably not related to any technology, and I'm going to throw it on you right now, but how, if somebody who wants to start running today, what's one tip you can give on that?
That's a great question. Running is one of the great things. There's absolutely no barriers to entry. All you literally need to do is just put on a pair of shoes and go out. So if you have never ran before, I would just say go out, just go for a walk, but then just put in some little bits of running. If you can only manage 10 seconds to start with, fine, no problem. If you're fitter and you can go a bit further, then go a bit further. But just starting with tiny little baby steps. Don't just think, right, I want to go and run a marathon for my first ever run, because it's probably not the. It'd be like someone who's starting their first business saying, I want to make £1 billion in the first week. Someone might be able to do that, but it's unlikely. So just taking those very early steps, just to do something, whether it be 10 seconds, a minute, 2 minutes, whatever. And then that you've got a marker down, and then you can start to try and progress from there.
That's good. That's a good tip for sure. Good tip. A lot of good conversation. Thank you so much. Is there anything you want to add to the interview before we finish?
Yeah, absolutely. Why not? I mean, I have an audio book which I've written. It's called Running. It's all in the head. Whilst it does relate a lot to running, there are a lot of principles I've picked up from the self-development world of business and mindset coaching, which I've thrown in there. That's available as a free download. So I'll make sure that you can have the link, Shahid, and then you can share it with your audiences. So yeah, absolutely do feel free to download that if you so wish.
Perfect. That's great. So I will put the link and definitely share it with everybody. Thank you so much again, John. And it was an honor having you here. Thank you again.
Thank you so much for having me, Shahid.
Thanks.